I'm Lauren from Pack Hacker, and in this video we're going to be taking a detailed look at the Frenchie Co 3-in-1 Sling backpack, which I've been testing for the last month. If you found this video helpful, hit subscribe so we can keep making content to help you travel smarter. Let's dive in. The outside of this 3-in-1 bag is fairly simple. So they have a few different material options depending on what you prefer. Right here we have the leather and the carbon fiber combination. You can see the carbon fiber is a little bit like on the sleeker side, whereas the leather is a bit more matte. And everything is still in really good shape. I would say what the Frenchie Co does really, really well is kind of making very like premium feeling bags, and this is no exception. So there are a few different options. You can go with like a ballistic nylon with leather, or a few different combinations and colorway options for you depending on your preference. Up here we have some AquaGuard style zippers that help keep the weather out, I guess you could say. And then we have two zipper garages as well for a little bit of additional protection. Overall, I would say I like the kind of general style of this bag. I think there are a few things that it could do a little bit differently. On the front here, we have a nice little Frenchie Co, very subtle debossed logo. And then on the back, not really much going on other than this is where everything starts to fold up, which I will get to shortly. But everything feels really nice on this. These straps here are kind of like a softer seatbelt material, and even though they're on the thinner side, they do feel pretty comfortable when they're on. And then you have some nice lengthy zipper pulls as well to help you get this thing open and shut it when you need to. So the harness system on this bag is both really simple and really complicated. So you can see that there's just one strap that kind of covers all your bases here. So this is as the name suggests, a 3-in-1 bag. So you have the small sling, you have a medium sling, and then you have a backpack mode. So this is as extended as it can possibly get in any sort of mode, and you can use this in sling mode. This is a bit long for me personally, so it's a fairly simple adjustment. You just pull that through and then you're all set to go. The one thing to note is that if you were to put this back and you wanted to cinch it back up, it worked very easily for me just then, of course, because it always does. But usually I found myself, when I was trying to cinch this back up, I would end up with a lot of adjustment down at the bottom that I kind of had to feed through and then fix and then feed through and fix. And so it was a little bit fussy, not a huge deal, but I kind of just wanted to set it and forget it. Made it a little bit harder to adjust on the fly and get an even fit. On the front here, we have a fidlock buckle, which you just pull up and it detaches and then reattaches nice and easily there. I never really found myself using this. It felt like a little bit overkill just because this strap was long enough. I know it's as long as it can get now, but even in the sling mode, it was long enough to just put back over one shoulder, so I didn't need to really use that much. Showing you kind of this medium sling mode here. This is the size of it, and the strap applies the same sort of way, but then in backpack mode is where that changes. So you can see it's already kind of pulling the strap down. This is where I found myself almost avoiding this mode, which kind of defeats the purpose, but you have to extend the strap out as much as possible, which I've already done, and then it feeds through on either side, and then the strap just kind of sits here. But you can see that it's twisting and turning and not really fitting very naturally, and I found myself getting a little bit overwhelmed almost with how the strap wasn't feeding through the way I wanted it to, and that does impact carry comfort as well, which I will show you in a moment. So starting off with backpack mode, you can see that it has just a very straight cut fit. There's nothing really crazy happening with this. There's no back panel or anything like that. It's definitely just, this bag is designed to go from one mode to the other to the other. But what you kind of end up with that is the shoulder straps are, you can kind of see falling very far off my shoulders. So I find myself adjusting it to kind of get them to fit where they need to. It's also twisting a little bit down at the back. And then that fidlock buckle is pretty much right between my shoulder blades right now. So you can make adjustments to help this fit a little bit higher. The fidlock buckle does just kind of raise with it. But you have a little bit of flexibility there, but even so, I found myself kind of struggling to find a fit between the adjusters where it wasn't laying a little bit crooked, because if you were to, you know, have this backpack on, but this strap on this side was a little bit longer, it would start to lay a little bit more like that. And so you would kind of go back and forth. So I almost found it easier to just extend it as much as humanly possible to get this backpack to just kind of rest on my back like this. So next up is medium-sized sling mode. And this is the sort of in-between of backpack and the smallest sling. I found myself really preferring this method. It just felt like it was the most roomy. I didn't feel like my gear was really fighting for space on the inside, which I'll be able to show you once we actually get into it. But it just felt a little bit more on par with the size that I was looking for, or was preferring when I was actually carrying gear. It was the least clunky. You can see that the fidlock is a little bit on my shoulder here. I kind of found myself struggling to figure out where I wanted to actually fit it, and this is just where it ended up falling for me, but the mileage may vary depending on the length that you want to have this on you. Last up here is the small sling. So you can see that it sits very similar to the medium sling. It's just a little bit smaller, and that's due to just kind of folding this up, which we'll get to in a second. But you can see it has like a little tiny shape to it. It feels a little bit big for the front. You can offset it to get it more fitting like an actual kind of sideways sling. I found myself just carrying it kind of like a crossbody bag, but more on the back side so that it just felt a little bit more at home back there, just based off of its size. But depending on where you have it located, or if you want to adjust that strap with that fidlock, that's going to change as well. But you can see it has a little bit of bulk to it, and so that's something to keep in mind. So in terms of secondary compartments on this thing, there really is only one. So right now I have it in that small sling mode, but what you do is you expand, or you unclip it here, and then you'll unclip it here, and here is the small little pocket. So in here I have my phone, I have my headphones, and then I have a little thing of chapstick there. There are a few little pockets on the inside here. You know, you can have your headphones in there. I actually think I had them in here and they fell out. That is something that I ran into a lot, is that these pockets weren't really super secure to keep your gear locked in. So I didn't find myself using them a ton. It just kind of felt like overkill to me. Another thing with this pocket is that you can't get to it if this is in either sling mode. So you have this top, you know, say you're in that medium sling. Let me get that buckled. You know, you can't get to that zippered pocket, and then you can't get to it when this is up either. And so it wasn't really super functional. This is mostly for when you have it in backpack mode. And because this is such a thin bag, whatever you put in here, you can start to, I wonder if you can see it actually. You can see it start to bulk out a little bit. And then you're also seeing another thing that I ran into a lot, is that when you are going from sling mode into backpack mode, if you don't extend the strap out first and you want to just open this up really quick and kind of get immediately to it, this buckle, adjustment buckle on this side here, prevents the bag from opening anymore. So on the plus side, that means that if for some reason this comes unbuckled when you're walking around, it's not just gonna like shoot and fall all the way open. But on the negative side, it's a little bit hard to switch between the carry modes, which I would say is one of my larger problems with the bag. It felt, for something switching that you want to switch between modes relatively often, it felt a little bit tedious to do so. All right, so we are going to look through each compartment in each carry mode. The good news is that it's designed to kind of transition between the carry modes, but I'll show you how it looks each time. So starting off with the small sling carry, this on the back is folded up and buckles in. And so, you know, it's just got these two buckles back here, and this is what makes it nice and small. So if you open up this compartment here and this compartment here, they are identical compartments with just one little piece of material separating the little, like, it's almost like creating two little pockets, which is nice. There's a little bit of padding to it, and that's because when in backpack mode, this does act as a sort of divider for your laptop as well. But there are a few caveats to that. So right now, the way that this is set up, this is in the smallest sling mode, and so there's a lot of material kind of folded up over here, but that doesn't mean that this material is completely closed off. So this just sort of expands as you start to expand out the bag. So I'll actually put it into the medium-sized sling bag right now, and you can see that all of the gear is sitting right at the bottom of where that small sling was. But if I were to open this up and just sort of wiggle it around a little bit, all of the gear now moves down to the very bottom of the medium-sized sling. And so what that means is that if now, you know, you're carrying around your gear and you're like, I want to go back down to the small sling size, you can't just like fold it back up, because all of that gear now is in the way of where it cuts in half, essentially. So if you do want to move it back to a different type of carry, you do have to take all of your gear out. And so that's not a huge deal if you find yourself really wanting to only do one mode of carry each time you're carrying this thing. But if you do like the option to kind of switch between the modes while you're out, just keep in mind that when you do, you're going to have to if you're going to be reducing size, you're going to be having to take things out. And that's mostly applicable here during the sling to sling carry mode. When you go into backpack mode, you know, there's a good chance you're not expecting to like be able to fold a large laptop in half, right? To be able to go back down to sling mode, just because that's not how things work. It wouldn't fit. But if you are kind of looking on the inside here, in both small and medium sling mode, when I mentioned that this was my preferred way to carry the sling, that's mostly because it just gave me more room to kind of put things in here. Because you can see as you start to add items in, going back to small mode here, as you start to add gear in there, it bulks up really, really quickly. I mean, in here, let's say I wanted to do the wallet and the notebook, I'm pretty much out of space to expand out that way. And the more gear that you add, the more bulky it's gonna get. So this is really great if you're only carrying a few essentials. And then if you wanted to carry a few more things, you can go easily into the medium mode. So going into the actual backpack, we have to extend out all of the strap. You can see here where I'm starting to struggle. It's really, I guess, mostly this side compared to the other side that seems to adjust a lot easier. But when you go into backpack mode here, I'm just going to extend this out. You can see that there is just one big compartment separated from one side to the other, and that on either side goes completely through. So if you were to, I mean, yeah, you can see the very, very bottom is the very, very outside. So I have my laptop here just to kind of give you an example. It does fit up to a 16-inch laptop. But if you want to slip your laptop in here, even though there's technically like a sleeve, it's not closed on the bottom. So you just need to really make sure that you're closing the bottom of this before you go to pick your gear up. Like I mentioned, you're not really going to be switching from sling to backpack or back and forth too much, just because there's no way I can close up this with the laptop inside. But it's definitely something to keep in mind, that when you're in backpack mode, it really is best fit for thin items, and just really make sure you close that bottom first. So there you have it, the Frenchie Co 3-in-1 Sling Backpack. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.